Welcome to Troubadour Reacts. My name is Kirk and I am musically challenged, at least according to my high school band instructor. And today I will be reacting to Rush Limelight. I've really been enjoying my Rush journey. I want to continue. One thing that I was actually searching for were just songs generally, not just Rush, but songs that obviously I had never heard. I hadn't even heard of this one. I'm very new to Rush, but that were reflecting some things that I was thinking about as I am reading some new things. So one of the new things that I'm reading is actually of this person, Amanda Knox. If you haven't heard of her, I really recommend looking into her. Very intriguing, very good writer, intriguing human. I'm very interested in her journey and experience. But basically she was accused of a murder she did not commit in Italy, but she was thrust into the limelight. And I'm very interested about the kinds of secondary caricatures that are created of people and how they deal with it. And I think that fame and being in the limelight, not that I have any experience with this, but I find it a very interesting thing because even if you're not famous, this is something that happens to everybody. So I was searching around for what's a good song about being thrust into the fame, thrust into, having this on you. And this song Limelight just struck out. And Google just kind of said, try Limelight. I assume it's about the limelight. That's what I assume it's about. You can support the channel by going to troubadour.studio/Iliad, and you can buy or get the first chapter of my Iliad translation for first-time readers. I spent a lot of time getting the Iliad. This is a line-by-line translation of the Iliad, getting it into iambic pentameter, but in a syntax, a sentence structure that a 13-year-old, I think, can actually read. Now, it's still an epic. There's still a lot going on. It's still kind of difficult because it's so old, but I did a lot of work and I tried my best to really make it easy for a first-timer, because that's how I came to it. I just kind of picked it up from a bookstore when I was a very young kid. Didn't understand any of it, so I've always wanted something there that can be readable. What I like to do is I will listen to it. I might pause once or twice. I'll try not to pause too much for some first things that pop into my head. Then the thing I do after I listen to the song is I'll go through the lyrics again on my own, listen to the song again on my own. Then I'll do a discussion of what I understood of the song and the meaning of it. I like the smoke. It's got to be 80s. So I've seen a video of them. In that studio. I'll try to pause it. So that has to be a reference to a poem, not Maya Angelou, but the one that Maya Angelou was inspired by, where the term "I hear why the caged bird sings." I used to have that memorized, but it was about being in a gilded cage. I know why the caged bird sings, which was a slave poem. That gilded cage has to be. Okay. Yeah. Love that. Not my dream. Not really. Oh. Oh man. Yeah, this is got so much stuff. Yeah, great. There's so much more to go. I'm seeing so much in this. I want to get back into it quickly, but just, yeah, the stuff about the playing a role, putting up barriers. I mean, there's so many things about literature that's relevant here, man. I'm excited to discuss this. I mean, the role thing is, life is a stage, Shakespeare. Right? All life is a stage, we're all playing it role. Ooh. Oh, yeah, I've heard actors talk about that. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. Okay. For those who wish to see. So it's not the universal dream for everybody. It's for those who wish to seem. There's a lot about appearance and reality, which is true of everybody. I think it's a very important rule. Huh. Woo! That's good. Oh, man. How do they find this sound? Like, there's just so many choices. And they find this. And it's so unique. And how young are they here? Kid looks like a kid. Oh. I definitely like the studio vibe. That's really cool as a music video. Alienation. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. Rocking. YYZ, that's on my list as well. YYZ-ness. I will be back with a discussion of the lyrics for those who are interested in going through this more than just my first thoughts. Okay, so I'm just going to, because the lyrics are pretty short, I'm actually just going to kind of read through the stanzas. I'm thinking of this as like a poem, and we're just going to kind of discuss some of the imagery here. So, living on a lighted stage approaches the unreal for those who think and feel in touch with some reality beyond the gilded cage. So I looked it up. That's Dunbar is his name. Paul Laurence Dunbar. I always loved that poem for a variety of reasons. It's a slave poem, but one of the things that it illustrates to me as a teacher is how poetry and art is really about understanding and trying to understand somebody else and somebody else's context and where they're coming from. And someone like Neil Peart, who I think wrote this song, he is experiencing something unique, which is this being thrust into an intense limelight. But I do think there are universal connections that all of us, even if we can't be, aren't recognized by our own parents or something, like we're so unpopular, we don't have anybody as friends, let alone people who think of us as friends, which he says in this song, and even though we've never met them. So in touch with some reality beyond the gilded cage is to me a hearkening to the I know why the caged bird sings. But it's a gilded cage, and the gilded cage is its goal. So cast in this unlikely role, so again, this idea of being in a role, ill-equipped to act with insufficient tact, one must put up barriers to keep oneself intact. So I just started reading this book by Amanda Knox. I was also reading her memoir. She has a a Hulu Disney Channel show coming out, or that's already out, called The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox. And there's one thing that she wrote, and the way that she wrote it was really interesting. So the jury convicted Foxy Knoxy and sentenced her to 26 years in prison. So her whole point here is that they convicted her persona that she didn't even create and had nothing to do with her, which is one difference about her story versus like a Neil Peart. So someone like a Neil Peart, someone like an actor, they want to be on the limelight in a certain sense because they want to be famous in a certain sense so that they could sell more records and be more, on bigger movies and things like that. She didn't. She just wanted to be in just a student. 20 years old, a student, and she's thrust into a national, worldwide spotlight. And it was a role that she all of a sudden took on that really took a life of its own. And people just made assumptions about her. But this idea of a role, I think all of us have this. This is true of everybody. You have a role. I remember once I was at a party and I was talking to somebody and I said something about I have this channel where I do stuff about poetry. And when that person introduced me to somebody else, all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, this is Kirk, he's the poet. And I just became the poet. I was like, I'm definitely not a poet. I'm not great at writing poetry. But it's that's so natural to human beings, just to immediately sum you up and you're that person forever, or that, so in that person's mind, you're ingrained. And I see so much of that in what Neil Peart is saying. And he's ill-equipped to act with insufficient tact. That's really hard. It's like really coming up. And again, Amanda talks a lot about that in her experiences of just not knowing how to deal with the fact that she's all of a sudden known and thought of as a murderer, even though she never did anything. But that's always, like, I think she phrases it like, Foxy Knoxy always entered the room before she did. So people would see her as this murderer or potential murderer, despite having zero evidence of it. And that's always how they see her forever. She's always dealing with that. So what happens? Quote from the song, one must put up barriers to keep oneself intact. Living in the limelight, the universal dream for those who wish to seem. That, to me, that clause is really important for those who wish to seem, because I don't think it's the universal dream for everybody. I think of like Achilles and all these people who want to be in the universal dream because they want to be seemed. They want to be known. There has to be they're okay with there being something about them rather than themselves. And there's a movie called Whiplash, which I think is a really great movie. And in that movie, the main character, I think Andrew Neiman, he talks to his family. It explains to them that he'd rather be, die at 29 or 30, but everyone knows who he is, than live a long life and nobody knows who he is. He says that. And I think a lot of famous people, for those who wish to seem, I think then living in the limelight's the universal dream. For those who wish to be, but if you want to be something, an actual human with the individuality, you must put aside the alienation, get on with the fascination, the real relation, the underlying theme. To me, I take that as a kind of indictment of the universal dream, that it's better to have the real underlying theme, which is the real person who's behind the mask. So here's the next stanza. Living in a fisheye lens, caught in the camera eye, I have no heart to lie. I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. That has to be really difficult part of being famous, is that everybody who walk up to you, they see you as a friend, and to them, you are. So like there are people you may follow, that I follow, that I watch their content, and you think you're their friend. You think you know them, and you do kind of know them a little bit, but you don't. And so Neil definitely does not know you, right? He would not have known you. So you're a stranger, but he has to pretend like, oh, hey, it's good. Like, that's how you expect a friend to go. So it's like this constant disappointment when you meet a famous person. Now we have Shakespeare right away. All the world's indeed a stage. So he's agreeing with Shakespeare, who said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So pretty simple. That, by the way, is not just a Shakespearean ideology. That is a Renaissance ideology. So simultaneous with and unbeknownst to the author Cervantes says a very similar type of thing. Here is a quote from Cervantes, from Don Quixote. All the world is a kind of stage where each man plays his part, and the life of man is a passage in which some play the kings, some the princes, some the bishops, and so on, until the end of the play, when death strips them of the robes which distinguish them and leaves them all on one level in the grave. So during the Renaissance period, many thinkers began to explore this idea of life as performance. This comes from the rise of the theater itself, when there are more theaters. So you start to see, oh, there's an actor and he's playing a king. And then later you see him in the street, picking at his butt or something like that. You're like, what? And it's weird for us to think about this, but that was such a unique experience in the world for them. There were always actors and things like that, but just the explosion of it, and there was a lot of it, and people started experiencing it, and started getting theories like Machiavelli in the Prince. He kind of expresses this central Renaissance theme, and also Montaigne, that what you seem to be, that everyone has a role to play, is different from who you actually are. You see it in Shakespeare, you see it in Cervantes, you see it in Montaigne, you see it in Machiavelli, and even in the paintings. So the paintings start to change a lot. So if you want a really good example of this in painting, there's actually a painting called Las Meninas, and it shows a kind of portrait, but then it's a look at the fact that it's a portrait. So there becomes this self-consciousness effect that becomes more and more prevalent. This also coincides with printing more. You start seeing that there's this appearance that people believe is real. So we believe that the person playing this prince, playing this lover, playing a king, playing the pope, whatever, we believe for a moment that they're the pope, but we know they're not. Well, this is something that we do in our own life. We believe that that's a good person, but they're really a bad person. We believe that that's a shopkeeper, but he's really a fiend who's stealing from it. So that appearance and reality thing is very prominent starting in the Renaissance. I thought you might find that interesting, that if you've ever thought that or experienced that, well, you are experiencing something from the Renaissance that you learned. So all the world's indeed a stage. We are merely players, performers, and portrayers, each another's audience outside the gilded cage. That I really liked. I've had other reactors talk to me about my reaction channel, and I've talked to them about their reactions. So it's like I'm reacting to other people and their reactions. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a fan of you and you're a fan of mine. Oh, cool. Right? So it's such a weird world that we live in. Okay, last two stanzas. Living in the limelight, the universal dream, for those who wish to seem, those who wish to be, must put aside the alienation, get on with the fascination, the real relation, the underlying theme. So we've already kind of covered that. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was very powerful. A lot of great stuff. Go check out troubadour.studio/Iliad. Go check out Amanda Knox if you haven't seen her stuff. She's a great writer, been through a lot. I'm really becoming a fan of what she's doing. So see you next time.